We have a lot of news to cover today, including lots of rumors and drama around the Vancouver Canucks. We're going to talk about Luke Schenn, Bo Horvat. Could Rick Tocchet be their next head coach? Plus, we also have a potential deal between the Montreal Canadiens and the Carolina Hurricanes. Some other trade rumors around the Jackets, the Sharks. We have some key players on waivers today, including a goalie in Detroit, and lots of other news from around the league. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As we can see here, we have lots to talk about today. So let's dive right in and get started. Before we get into a lot of the other NHL-based news, though, I do want to acknowledge the passing of a longtime NHL player, former Vancouver Canuck, Gino Odjick. Of course, Odjick played for a few other teams as well, including Montreal, but spent obviously the bulk of his career in the Canucks organization. Gino Odjick was only 52 years of age, so certainly a big loss in the hockey community. Certainly one of the better enforcers we've seen in the league. Certainly a very big personality, very popular, well-liked player amongst his teammates and fans in Vancouver for a long stretch. Was great friends with Pavel Bure. Those two were very well connected on and off the ice. Obviously, like I said, just an unfortunate scenario. Now, I do know back in 2014 that Odjick was diagnosed with, I believe, some sort of a rare heart condition. I don't know the full details. I know he was looking at experimental health treatments at that point, which may have been, able to extend his life. Because when he was first diagnosed, I remember hearing the news that he was only given a short time to live. But of course, we're into 2023 now, so that was between 8 and 9 years ago. So obviously, it's sad news. Like I said, he was just a big personality. I remember watching him play a lot during his prime time in the NHL. And we're certainly like to acknowledge that, and certainly offer condolences to anybody connected to him, friend or family wise. Certainly another player gone way too soon. Big news on NHL waivers today. We have a couple of players, including Dallas Stars Nicholas Camano and Detroit Red Wings goalie Alex Nedeljkovic. Now, Nedeljkovic hasn't played a ton this year. He's been dealing with some injuries, been out of the lineup a lot. And when he has played, it hasn't gone well, which is part of the reason why this appears to be happening here. Of course, he's in the second year of a 2-year contract that the Red Wings gave him when the Carolina Hurricanes decided not to sign him as a restricted free agent. A lot of people thought, myself included, that Nedeljkovic might be the goalie of the future for Carolina. He had a tremendous AHL career, good start in the NHL as well. Looked like he was going to take over the reins. And then they decided to pass on that. They made Nedeljkovic and Mrazek. They both moved them out. And, of course, they come in with a whole new goalie tandem. Frederik Andersen, of course, and Antti Ranta. And, of course, now they have Kochetkov in the picture as well. But Nedeljkovic in Detroit just hasn't really worked out. And it's been a tough year. They've got Ville Husso. They picked up Hellberg on waivers. And those two guys have been playing much better. I've been talking for some time that we're probably going to see a goalie move in the not too distant future with Detroit due to, it's tough to carry 3 goalies. You don't have, a lot of playing time for all 3. You're taking up an extra roster spot, cap space. It's just not overly productive, which is why you don't see a lot of teams do it. If they do it, it's only for short stretches. But we'll see if anybody picks him up. He could be the next contract that Detroit's going to bury in the minors. Of course, we saw them put veteran forward Jacob Vrana on waivers not long ago after returning to the Red Wings after a stint in the NHL Player Assistance Program, NHL/NHLPA program that is. And then he was demoted to the minors after not being picked up. I think teams were hesitant to pick him up where he hadn't played in so long. They kind of probably wanted to see him play more and obviously have some good results before they would consider picking up a player like that, even though he has a good history. I've also seen some reports that he's been a healthy scratch in the AHL since being sent down. So I don't really know what's going on with Vrana and the Red Wings. Like I mentioned before, there seems to be more to the story that we don't know, and there's got to be something there. I just don't know when we're gonna find out or how that's going to come to be. But certainly not a good scenario going on there. A couple of Red Wing contracts that Yzerman himself has signed, not working out, and that's a lot of money to be buried at the American Hockey League. Now, on to some other news. Like I said, we have a variety of news around the Vancouver Canucks. So more drama, more trade talk. Coaching change appears to be somewhat imminent. Let's start with the Tanner Pearson situation. We talked a couple days back about the Pearson injury once it was revealed that he was going to require additional surgery and was going to be done for the season, which was one thing. And then to hear his teammate and friend Quinn Hughes, when asked about the loss of Pearson for the rest of the year in her media interview, Hughes made a comment saying that was not handled right. So it kind of got a lot of people talking, a lot of people looking into things. And now, of course, according to Elliotte Friedman on the 32 Thoughts segment on Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada, he says that the NHLPA is now stepping in and getting involved here as well. It's believed that Pearson not only going to need another surgery probably sometime next week, but it's believed that he's likely going to need a second surgery after that sometime down the road, and his career could be in jeopardy. So he also said in his report, Friedman did, that Jim Rutherford, the president of the Canucks, wants to have a meeting with all the stakeholders involved in this. So I'm sure he'd bring in maybe Canucks medical people, the NHLPA, of course, he or Patrick Alvin, and kind of start to sort things out. But it doesn't look good. I mean, obviously, when you get a player like Hughes speaking out about it, and now the PA is looking into it. I mean, we just want to hopefully see Tanner Pearson get healthy, get the treatment and surgery he needs, and hopefully it doesn't end his career. But something has to give here. Not like this team certainly needed more drama or another negative story to look into here. Of course, they also talked about the coaching change. Friedman does say in this latest report that he believes Rick Tocchet will absolutely be the next coach of the Vancouver Canucks, and it's likely coming soon, probably in about 4 weeks. And it's probably, now he didn't mention this, but a lot of other people talking online made a good point that it's most likely because Rick Tocchet would have to give notice on his TV job as an analyst with TNT. It's believed that he would have to give a 4-week notice to the network, which explains why Friedman is saying that it's likely going to happen in approximately 4 weeks' time. So I feel bad for Bruce Boudreau for this to get leaked out and for NHL insiders to know that a coaching change is coming that far ahead. For Boudreau to continue to do his job, it's got to be a real tough situation. I certainly feel for him. He's been in this, an NHL coach a long time. He's had a ton of success. Things got off to a real hot start in Vancouver, and now here we are. And it's certainly come a long ways, fallen off the rails, and we expect significant change in this organization. And like I said, we might get a variety of things. We don't know. And obviously, after the Pearson thing, there's more. I've seen some reports, and I'm not going to call it a rumor today because I'm still looking into it to see what information I can find. But there are some convinced that Elias Pettersson might be getting to the point where he might want to change the scenery. That's what some are saying, but I don't have enough information to, from credible sources to go on and actually talk about that as a real thing. So it's just something I'm going to continue to research and see if I can find somebody with credible sources to discuss that. But I would think of it like I mentioned before the other day when Hughes made those comments, because we know that the Vancouver Canucks have been a hot topic in hockey for trade rumors all season because of the lack of success and the teams basically imploding from within. We know that Rutherford has not pulled the trigger on any deals this year, really. Like, they've been quiet, even though they've talked a ton about making changes and cap flexibility, and they're just not following through because they probably can't get the deals that they want. And obviously it's been mentioned that Pettersson and Hughes were the only untouchable players. I mean, I've raised a lot of eyebrows thinking that an all-star goalie like Thatcher Demko, yes, he's having a tough season, but look what he's done in the past. Could he be available? Amongst others on this team, right? Including Captain Bo Horvat and even JT Miller after signing a long-term deal. It's just very interesting to hear those words. But then when you hear Quinn Hughes speaking out about his friend on the team, and then of course you get Pettersson, the speculation, I really wonder if they're really at risk to really be seriously damaged by having some of these top young players that are likely you would think are going to stay get to the point where they want to ask out. I would hope for their sake that didn't happen, but you got to wonder how guys like Pettersson and Hughes are really feeling. And if it gets to that point, that's going to really be that much bigger of a disaster than this could already be. But staying with Vancouver, more trade rumors talked about from Friedman and Merrick on this segment on Hockey Night. Talking about Luke Schenn. Of course, we know he's been a defenseman that's been actively mentioned in the rumor mill. Obviously a quality player for the price tag that he brings as well. Get some good, valuable experience. He's a proven playoff player. Got a couple Stanley Cups to his name with Tampa. And Friedman's reporting that Tampa Bay, he believes, are going to be very, very interested in bringing back the defenseman into the fold for another run at a potential third cup in Tampa. Obviously, he feels Tampa is going to be one of the strongest suitors for his services. So I guess we could possibly see that deal happen again. And as I mentioned before, I think that the Canucks have a lot of reasons to consider keeping Luke Schenn, but I just think there's going to be too much interest and he's too valuable a commodity to me. I think they have to trade him. Could they consider re-signing him again later? Yes, that is a possibility. When it comes to Captain Bo Horvat, Jeff Merrick talked about the fact that teams are certainly picking up the phone and calling plenty. The conversations are not to the point where you'd say a deal is imminent, but it sounds like things are certainly heating up a little bit where they're at least discussing some parameters. He mentioned one team, it was discussing the potential of having 3 players going to the Canucks for Horvat, including their top prospect. Of course, he didn't name the team, but I would suspect that you're looking at least a few assets like that to get that kind of deal done. I think the Canucks should be going for some top prospects, but I know earlier at the beginning of this, it was reported that they might prefer more of a hockey trade and get something back if it's going to be a younger player, somebody who's at least established to the point that they have a better idea what they are and can contribute at the NHL level right away, and not somebody who might be, a year or two away from having that kind of impact at the NHL level. Of course, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in Vancouver, but you're looking at Connor Garland, Brock Besser, Luke Schenn, Bo Horvat, Thatcher Demko. When the floodgates start to open, I'd be curious to see what trades actually go down, and if the other young stars get to the point that they don't want to play there anymore either. It's certainly, like I said, a potential disaster in the making. We also got a signing today as well. The Boston Bruins have extended Pavel Zacha on a 4-year contract extension. Of course, they picked him up in a trade for New Jersey this past offseason, and Zacha has actually fit in nicely there. He gets a 4-year deal of $4.75 million. So far this year, he's appeared in 42 games, putting up 25 points. Certainly productive. It was basically reported that the Devils just didn't really know what to do with Zacha. They couldn't quite figure out where he fit. I mean, he can be a center, a winger, where he fit exactly. He was likely going to be more of a bottom 6 role with them, which they didn't really feel was best suited for his skill set. I mean, he was a high draft pick, has a lot of skills that you can see a top 6 or top 9 forward having, and he's been able to find more of his game with the Boston Bruins. So it's certainly a pretty good signing on their part, a player they've obviously feel like has worked out nicely and want to keep around. Evander Kane's going to be returning from injury for the Oilers way ahead of schedule. He's expected to be back here, I believe, likely their next game, which is great news for Kane. Certainly, he's been out for a long time, and I think that the Oilers' inconsistencies, they really missed him. So hopefully he can come back and be able to contribute right away. I mean, obviously being out on a long-term injury, you have to be concerned that it's going to take some time to get everything down pat before he'll be able to be at full 100%, but we'll have to wait and see. And another Kane, Patrick Kane, of course, one of the all-time greats that's been likely going to be on the move here at the deadline, assuming he's able and healthy to play, has been activated. And there was a bit of a scare there with the injury he was dealing with in Chicago, that maybe he would end up getting shut down and we wouldn't see a Patrick Kane trade. But right now he's been activated. He's going to get back in the lineup. So it doesn't mean for sure, of course, he's going to be traded, but at least for the time being, it eliminates the likelihood that he may not be traded because of his injury or health status. So we'll have to monitor that situation and see, but Kane's going to be back. And apparently the Ottawa Senators are very close to getting Josh Norris back in their lineup as well. Senators reporter for the Ottawa Sun, Bruce Garriock, has been reporting today that it's quite likely that Norris plays sometime within the next week. So he's been out since very early on, one of their very important top 6 forwards. So, they don't have, a great chance of making the playoffs, but they're really, if you look at the standings, they have a lot of teams that jump over, but the gap between them and the second wildcard team in the East, it's not impossible. They'd have to go on a heck of a run, but getting a top guy back that can hopefully solidify the offense certainly would not hurt in that matter, even though the odds are against them, as I mentioned. The other couple of players to keep your eye on as well, the Columbus Blue Jackets are actively shopping veteran Gustav Nyquist. Obviously, he's a pending unrestricted free agent. Obviously, the Jackets see him as being a potential fit on a variety of other teams, to be acquired at the deadline. So we'll see where that goes. I don't see him returning to Columbus. Personally, when they signed Johnny Gaudreau in the offseason, I was surprised they traded Bjorkstrand instead of Nyquist, who had 1 year left. I really thought they could have kept Bjorkstrand in the mix and kept him there, which shocked me that they moved him. But Nyquist will be on the move here at the deadline if he gets enough interest, that is, and if not, he'll be a UFA either way in the offseason. San Jose Sharks young prospect defenseman Ryan Merkley, who we reported back a couple weeks ago that he wanted a fresh start. He wanted to go to a new franchise to get more of an opportunity. I assume he feels like he's good enough to be in the NHL and is not getting the opportunity. That's usually why these kind of things come to be. Merkley apparently could be a target for the Arizona Coyotes. Of course, the Coyotes are a team at the deadline that are expected to trade plenty of players, including some defensemen. We know that Shane Gostisbehere is going to get a lot of attention. Jacob Chychrun is certainly high on a lot of teams' watch list for potential trades. So if guys like Gostisbehere and Chychrun get moved, they're going to need more guys to step in and finish the year. And Merkley could be, one of those guys to take a flyer on to see if they can find, a gem for a cheap price. So don't be shocked if we see Ryan Merkley end up with the Arizona Coyotes. And could we possibly see as well a trade between Carolina and Montreal? I did come across reports today that the Habs centerman Sean Monahan, who I know who had a good start to the year, ended up getting injured again, which is unfortunate, but still had such a strong play that it's still drawing interest. The Hurricanes, of course, we know are having a solid year. Will be one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. One of the series teams for a potential cup contender for sure, but they really could use more depth at center. They never really properly replaced Vincent Trocheck. Obviously, some young players have really stepped up this year, including Marty Necas, but adding another veteran to that mix, like a Sean Monahan, might be worth the while. Now, if Montreal is looking for a price tag as high as a first-round pick, then that may not happen. I don't see teams wanting to kind of spend that kind of draft currency in a deep draft, but certainly a player that the Hurricanes fully expect to be interested in. Of course, doesn't mean a trade's going to happen, but it makes sense that he would be one of the guys they have on the radar. It is also possible that the Hurricanes might go after maybe a more higher end player as well, because there's going to be some other names out there with more experience that come with a bigger resume than Monahan. But at the same time, that means the acquisition cost is going to be higher. It also means their cap hit could be higher as well, and obviously that could play a role. But at the same time, Monahan's contract's pretty, it's not like it's small, but Montreal could retain 50% and get them to Carolina for a much cheaper price. So not, like I said, not saying for sure that's something that we see happen, but it makes sense that he would be one of the players they're monitoring for potential trade as we get closer to the deadline. Now that we're going to be getting into the later half of January, we're you're looking about 6-7 weeks here before the deadline, so it should be an impactful activity period as things start to pick up. So we'll have to wait and see on that front. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments, and we'll talk about them further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe. Stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.